Stop scrolling. Stop doubting. Stop telling yourself this stirring in your spirit is nothing. What you are feeling right now is not coincidence, not emotion, not imagination. It is a warning from God, sharp and urgent, because destiny is too close and danger is too real to be ignored. God does not whisper warnings to those who have no future to protect. He speaks urgently when something precious is at stake. You are not listening to this by accident. Heaven has aligned this moment because there is a man in your path, and God is saying, be alert. There are seasons when God comforts, and there are seasons when God cautions. This is not a season of comfort. This is a season of discernment. Chosen ones are not destroyed by lack of power. They are delayed by misplaced trust. The greatest threats to destiny rarely come dressed as enemies. They come smiling. They come offering help. They come appearing harmless, supportive, even spiritual. But God sees what eyes cannot see. God sees intention, motive, future impact. And when God warns you about a man, it is never about fear, it is about preservation. Hear this deeply. Not every man sent into your life is sent by God. Some are allowed as tests, some are tolerated as lessons, and some are permitted only to reveal how much you have grown. The chosen often mistake proximity for permission. Just because someone is close does not mean they belong. Just because someone understands your language does not mean they share your assignment. God is saying, do not confuse access with alignment. You have prayed for elevation, cried out for expansion, fasted for breakthrough. But elevation changes the kind of battles you face. When God begins to lift you, the enemy no longer attacks you from the outside. He tries to attach himself to you from within your circle. This is why the warning is about a man, not a storm, not a situation, not a visible threat. The danger is relational. The danger is subtle. The danger is close. God is not saying this man is obvious trouble. If he were obvious, you would not need a warning. God is saying there is something hidden, something undeveloped, something unresolved in him that will collide with where God is taking you. Destiny is sensitive. Purpose is fragile in its early stages. One wrong alignment can slow years of divine progress. That is why God intervenes early. Chosen ones carry light, and light attracts everything, those who want to be healed and those who want to feed. Some people are drawn to you, not because they honor what God placed in you, but because they benefit from it. They like your strength because it covers their weakness. They like your faith because it compensates for their doubt. They like your discipline because it hides their disorder. But God is saying, you were not anointed to be a crutch. Understand this truth. When God is silent, you wait. When God warns, you move. Delay after warning is disobedience disguised as patience. Many chosen ones have lost momentum because they tried to pray away what God already told them to separate from. God does not warn twice about the same thing in the same season. Repetition is mercy. Silence afterward is judgment. This man may not hate you. He may admire you. He may even believe he loves you. But love without alignment becomes a burden. Admiration without obedience becomes competition. Affection without submission to God's order becomes manipulation. God is not asking you to judge him. God is asking you to choose obedience over emotion. There is a difference between kindness and covenant. God never told you to carry everyone into your future. Some people are only meant to walk with you until a certain door opens. When that door opens, staying together becomes rebellion. The chosen struggle with this because your heart is generous, your spirit is compassionate, and your loyalty is deep. But generosity without discernment becomes self-sabotage. God is saying this man will not attack your gift openly. He will slowly question it. He will not confront your calling directly. He will subtly minimize it. He will not tell you to stop obeying God. He will distract you until obedience feels inconvenient. This is how destiny erosion happens. Not through dramatic betrayal, but through daily compromise. Listen carefully. Anything God warns you about that you continue to entertain will eventually cost you more than you're willing to pay. God sees the end from the beginning. You see the now. God sees the weight of this man on your future, not just his presence in your present. And because God loves you, he interrupts. You are not being punished by this warning. You are being protected. God is not saying you are wrong for caring. God is saying you are wrong for ignoring the check in your spirit. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is alignment with divine instruction. If your spirit has been restless, if your prayers feel heavy, if your joy has been leaking slowly, these are not random emotions. These are signals. Chosen ones often think strength means enduring everything. But strength in God means discerning what not to endure. You do not need to prove resilience by surviving relationships God never ordained. Obedience is greater than endurance. Separation is sometimes the highest form of faith. God is saying, I'm not asking you to fix him. I am not asking you to heal him. I am not asking you to wait until he understands. Your assignment is not rehabilitation. Your assignment is obedience. When God wants to transform a person, he does it without sacrificing another's destiny. You are not the altar on which this man is meant to grow. There are men who are comfortable being near the anointing, but terrified of becoming accountable to God. They like proximity without responsibility. They like benefit without submission. And when God begins to demand growth from them, they resist. That resistance becomes friction in your life. God is saying, do not let someone else's refusal to grow become your reason to shrink. The chosen are most vulnerable right before major transition. This is when emotional attachments feel strongest, when loneliness whispers lies, when familiarity feels safer than faith. But God is saying, what feels safe now will become restrictive later. The warning is not about what this man is today, but about what he will be when pressure comes. Pressure reveals truth. When God accelerates your life, pressure increases. If this man cannot handle pressure, he will redirect it toward you. If he cannot stand firm, he will lean on you until you are exhausted. If he cannot hear God clearly, he will resist when God leads you boldly. And God is saying, you cannot afford that weight. You have been called to lead, to influence, to build, to stand. You cannot do that while constantly explaining your obedience, justifying your faith, or shrinking your vision to keep someone comfortable. God never told you to negotiate your calling for companionship. This warning is an invitation to trust God more than your emotions. Faith is not proven in miracles. It is proven in decisions no one applauds. Walking away does not mean you failed. Walking away means you listen. Obedy. NCE often looks like loss before it looks like breakthrough. God is not cruel. If he is removing or warning you about someone, it is because he already has provision prepared. Empty space is not abandonment, it is preparation. God clears what cannot go where you are going. Chosen one, do not silence the warning to protect the relationship. Protect the calling and God will handle the rest. You are not responsible for how this man responds to your obedience. You are responsible for obeying. God is saying, I called you before he knew you. I anointed you before he understood you. I sustained you before he supported you. Do not place someone in a position only God should occupy. This is not about fear. This is about faith with clarity. Faith that trusts God's voice even when it contradicts your feelings. Faith that believes God sees what you cannot afford to learn the hard way. You are not losing anything by obeying this warning. You are gaining time, peace, momentum, and protection. The chosen do not need many voices. They need one clear instruction. And that instruction is sounding now. Pay attention to what drains you. Pay attention to what dulls your passion. Pay attention to what makes obedience feel heavy. God speaks through patterns before consequences. You are closer than you think. The reason this warning feels intense is because your breakthrough is near. The enemy does not waste strategy on those going nowhere. This resistance is proof of direction. God is saying, choose me without apology. Choose obedience without delay. Choose alignment over attachment. The future God has prepared for you requires clarity, courage, and separation. Do not argue with the warning. Do not delay the decision. Do not wait for proof when God has already spoken. You were chosen to stand, not to settle. You were called to move forward, not to look back. You were marked T, obey, not to negotiate. God is not only warning you about who to step away from, He is also revealing who you are becoming. Every divine warning carries a revelation of identity. God never separates you from something without first securing you in who He has called you to be. The discomfort you feel is the sound of growth. Growth stretches relationships. Growth exposes incompatibility. Growth demands decisions that the old version of you could postpone, but the new version of you cannot. God is saying, you are no longer permitted to be passive about your future. There are people who only know how to relate to the version of you that was uncertain, the version that questioned, the version that needed reassurance. When God strengthens you, those people feel threatened, not because you changed into something wrong, but because you changed into something strong. This man may not know how to relate to a version of you that listens to God without apology. God is saying, do not downgrade clarity to preserve comfort. Chosen ones often face resistance not from enemies, but from those who benefited from their patience. When you begin to walk decisively, those who relied on your hesitation feel exposed. This is why warnings often come at the moment you decide to move forward. God is drawing a line not to isolate you, but to define you. Understand this, God's warnings are not rooted in suspicion, they are rooted in foresight. God does not guess, God knows. What feels premature to you is perfectly timed in heaven. Waiting longer will not bring more clarity, it will only deepen attachment. God interrupts early so you do not have to recover later. There is a spiritual principle you must grasp. Alignment determines acceleration. You can pray for speed, but if you are aligned incorrectly, movement will cost you energy without progress. God is not withholding blessing. God is removing friction. This man represents friction in a season where God intends flow. Some relationships do not collapse because they are sinful. They collapse because they are insufficient for the weight of destiny. God is increasing the weight on your life. Greater responsibility, greater influence, greater assignment. Anything not built to carry that weight will eventually crack. God is saying, do not confuse breaking with evil. Some things break because they were never designed to go this far. You may be tempted to explain yourself, to justify the decision, to soften the truth so it hurts less, but obedience does not require explanation. God did not ask you to convince anyone, God asked you to follow. When God leads you out, silence is sometimes the most powerful confirmation that you trust Him. Chosen ones must learn to be misunderstood without becoming defensive. Defense often means doubt. Confidence in God produces quiet resolve. You do not need permission to obey God. You do not need agreement to move forward. God's approval outweighs human understanding. There are men who admire your discipline but resent your direction. They want your results without your surrender. They want the fruit but not the root. And when they realize they cannot control what God is growing in you, they attempt to slow it down. God is saying, anything that tries to slow obedience is not from me. Pay attention to resistance when you pray. Pay attention to tension when you fast. Pay attention to discouragement when you speak vision. These are indicators, not accidents. God speaks through disruption when comfort becomes dangerous. You are not cruel for choosing obedience. You are not heartless for honoring God above emotion. Compassion does not mean compromise. Love does not mean disobedience. God never asked you to sacrifice your assignment on the altar of sympathy. There is a season where God allows connection, and there is a season where God demands separation. Missing the shift between those seasons causes confusion. God is shifting you now. What once felt permissible now feels heavy, because God has changed your capacity. You have outgrown what once fit. God is not removing joy from your life. He is removing the counterfeit version of it. Real joy does not compete with obedience. Real peace does not argue with God's voice. Real alignment produces rest, even when the decision is painful. You must understand the power of obedience before understanding the full picture. God rarely shows the entire map. He reveals the next step. Trust is proven in movement, not in comprehension. If God waited for you to understand everything, you would never need faith. Chosen ones often want confirmation from people when God has already confirmed in the Spirit. But the Spirit does not need consensus, it needs courage. Courage is not loud. Courage is quiet obedience in the face of emotional pressure. God is saying, I am not taking something from you. I am making room for what you asked me for. Every prayer you prayed requires space. Space requires subtraction. Subtraction requires trust. There are doors that will not open while certain people remain closed. Not because those people are evil, but because the door demands singular focus. God is calling you into a season of clarity where divided attention is no longer permitted. If you ignore this warning, you may still move forward, but it will be slower, heavier, more painful. God allows choice, but He reveals consequence. Obedience is not the only option, but it is the only one that leads to peace. Do not wait until bitterness teaches you what discernment tried to prevent. Do not wait until exhaustion explains what obedience would have avoided. God warns before pain, so pain does not have to be your teacher. Chosen one. Your sensitivity to God is not weakness, it is your greatest strength. The fact that you feel this warning means your spirit is alive, tuned, responsive. Do not dull that sensitivity by rationalizing what God is highlighting. You were not chosen to blend in emotionally. You were chosen to stand out spiritually. Standing out requires decisions others will not understand. But heaven understands, and that is enough. God is inviting you into deeper trust. Trust that He knows what He is doing. Trust that He will handle what you release. Trust that obedience will not leave you empty. There is a future version of you that thanks you for listening today. There is a peace ahead that requires courage now. There is a freedom waiting on the other side of obedience. God is faithful. When He warns, He also covers. When He separates, He also supplies. When He closes one door, He opens another with clarity and peace. Do not rush the grief. Do not suppress the emotion. But do not let emotion rule the decision. Feel everything. Obey anyway. God is not done speaking to you, but this instruction is clear. Protect your spirit. Guard your calling. Choose alignment. You are not walking away alone. God goes before you, stands beside you, and secures what you cannot see. The warning is love. The instruction is mercy. The obedience is protection. There is a moment in every chosen life when God shifts the way He speaks. Early on, God guides gently, correcting softly, allowing space for learning. But when destiny draws near, God's voice sharpens. Not because He is angry, but because time becomes sacred. Urgency is the language of proximity. What you are hearing now is urgency born from love. God is saying, I will not allow distraction to masquerade as destiny any longer. Many do not realize this, but warnings are a privilege. Silence is far more dangerous than erection. When God stops warning, it means a person has chosen their own way completely. But you are still being warned because God is still invested. God is still shaping. God is still protecting. The fact that your spirit reacts, resists, wrestles is proof that you are still aligned enough to hear. This man may appear consistent, present, even supportive, but consistency without direction becomes stagnation. Presence without purpose becomes noise. God is not impressed by proximity. God responds to obedience. Someone can be close to you and still far from where God is leading you. Nearness does not equal readiness. There is a danger the chosen must recognize. Familiarity can numb discernment. When someone has been around long enough, you stop questioning what you should still be praying about. God is saying, do not let time replace confirmation. Longevity does not sanctify alignment. Only obedience does. You are entering a season where God will demand clarity of environment. Atmospheres matter. Conversations matter. Who you listen to matters. God is refining not only what you do, but what you tolerate. This is maturity. This is leadership. This is the weight of being chosen. Some people are only equipped for survival seasons, not expansion seasons. They know how to endure drought with you, but cannot handle overflow. When God begins to bless openly, unresolved insecurity in others becomes hostility, control, or withdrawal. God is warning you now so you are not surprised later. The chosen are often tempted to carry others forward out of loyalty, but loyalty without instruction becomes rebellion. God never asked you to be faithful to people at the expense of being faithful to Him. Loyalty belongs first to God, then to assignment, then to people who honor both. This man may not understand why you cannot slow down, why you cannot compromise small things, why obedience matters to you so deeply. And rather than seeking God for understanding, He may seek you to adjust. God is saying, anyone who asks you to lower your standard instead of raising theirs is not aligned with where I am taking you. God is also teaching you something about timing. The warning is not late. It is not early. It is exact. God speaks when your spirit is strong enough to respond. Earlier, you might have ignored it. Now, you are capable of acting. This is growth revealed through responsibility. There is a cost to obedience, but there is a greater cost to delay. Delayed obedience does not cancel destiny, but it complicates it. God wants your future clean, not cluttered with unnecessary recovery. God would rather you feel temporary pain than permanent regret. Do not underestimate how deeply God cares about your peace. Peace is not a luxury. It is a requirement for sustained assignment. Anything that constantly disturbs your peace is signaling misalignment. God is not the author of confusion, heaviness, or internal conflict that persists without resolution. You are not imagining the spiritual resistance around this connection. You are not overthinking. Spiritual sensitivity increases when calling increases. What once felt neutral now feels heavy because God is sharpening your discernment. This is not loss, this is clarity. God is preparing you for leadership, and leadership requires solitude at times. Not isolation, but separation. Separation is intentional. It creates space for instruction, refinement, and strength. God often removes voices before He gives new direction. This warning is also an invitation to trust God with your emotional needs. God is not asking you to become cold. God is asking you to become anchored. Anchored people do not cling to unstable support. They rest in God's sufficiency. There are seasons where God allows companionship, support, and seasons where God becomes your sole reinforcement. This is one of those seasons. God is drawing you closer, not to deprive you, but to prepare you. Intimacy with God precedes clarity of assignment. If you feel a quiet grief rising, let it rise. Grief does not mean you are wrong. It means you are human, but do not let grief decide. Let obedience lead, and grief will heal in time. God heals what obedience wounds. Remember this, destiny does not negotiate. It moves forward whether you are ready or not. God gives warning so you can move with destiny, not be dragged by it. Cooperation brings peace. Resistance brings strain. This man represents a crossroads, not because he is powerful, but because your decision is. God is watching how you choose when emotion and instruction collide. This moment is shaping your future discernment. You are learning to hear God beyond signs and wonders, beyond dramatic confirmation. You are learning to hear Him in the quiet insistence that does not go away. That insistence is the voice of God shaping mature faith. God is also teaching you that love must be rooted in truth. Anything that requires you to ignore truth to maintain connection will eventually collapse. Truth sustains, avoidance erodes. Do not confuse patience with permission. God has been patient with you, but patience does not mean approval. This warning is God's mercy interrupting before patience expires. You are stepping into a season where God will trust you with more influence. Influence attracts responsibility. Responsibility demands discernment. Discernment requires difficult choices. This is the pathway of the chosen. God is saying, I need your hands free. Free from emotional entanglement. Free from constant explanation. Free from carrying what I never assigned. Freedom is not escape, it is alignment. There will be moments after obedience when silence feels loud. That silence is not abandonment, it is adjustment. Your spirit is recalibrating to a new rhythm. Stay still, stay listening. God will not leave you unsupported. He will send clarity, peace, strength, and provision in ways that confirm obedience. But those confirmations often come after the decision, not before. You are being trained to walk by trust, not reassurance. This is higher ground. This is deeper faith. This is the posture of those entrusted with much. Let go without resentment. Step forward without arrogance. Obey without fear. God resists pride, but strengthens the humble who obey even when it costs them emotionally. What God is building in you requires integrity of heart. Integrity is choosing what aligns with God, even when no one would blame you for choosing otherwise. Heaven honors integrity. This warning is shaping your future boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates. Gates allow what aligns and block what threatens. God is teaching you how to guard what He has placed inside you. Stay sensitive, stay responsive, stay surrendered. God is not finished instructing you, but this season is demanding courage over comfort, obedience over attachment, trust over familiarity. And as you continue forward, you'll recognize that every warning was a layer of protection, preparing you for what is unfolding just ahead, where God's hand becomes clearer, His direction sharper, and His presence more sustaining as you walk into the next phase of what He has already ordained. There is another layer to this warning that must be understood, because God never speaks on one level alone. God is not only protecting your future relationships, He is protecting your authority. Authority is fragile when obedience is compromised. Authority flows from alignment, not from position. When you stay connected to what God has already flagged, you begin to fade. A spiritual resistance when you speak, hesitation when you act, delay when you decide. God is saying, I need your authority clean, uncompromised, and undivided. You are stepping into a season where your words will carry unusual weight. What you declare will move situations. What you refuse will set boundaries in the unseen. But authority cannot coexist with inner contradiction. If your spirit knows something is wrong, but your actions ignore it, authority leaks. God is warning you because what He is about to entrust to you requires internal agreement with His voice. This man may not oppose God openly, but subtle opposition is more dangerous than open resistance. Open resistance is easy to identify. Subtle resistance hides behind concern, questions, delays, and emotional pressure. God is saying, watch who questions what I have already confirmed to you. Discernment sharpens when you stop explaining what God has already settled. There are moments when God allows someone to walk with you long enough to reveal your growth. At first you adjusted for them. You explained yourself. You waited. Now God is watching whether you will still adjust when He has already elevated you internally. This is not about them changing. This is about you choosing. God is also training you to recognize spiritual imbalance. When one person is always pulling and the other is always pouring, imbalance eventually becomes resentment. God never designed you to be the source. God designed you to be the steward. When someone relies on you more than they rely on God, that dependency becomes a burden you were never meant to carry. You must hear this clearly. God does not want you entangled in emotional responsibility that He never assigned. Responsibility belongs where authority exists. You do not have authority over another person's growth, obedience, or healing. Carrying responsibility with authority leads to frustration, guilt, and exhaustion. God is freeing you from that weight. The chosen often confuse compassion with obligation. Compassion feels deeply, but obligation binds dangerously. God is compassionate, yet He still sets boundaries. God loves, yet He still separates. If God Himself separates from what resists His will, why would you think love requires you to stay where alignment is missing? There is a quiet strength God is developing in you. The strength to say no without anger, to walk away without hatred, to obey without drama. This strength does not announce itself. It simply moves when God says move. This is mature faith. You may notice that when you imagine letting go, fear rises, not fear of losing the person, but fear of facing the unknown. That fear is not a sign to stay. It is a sign that God is calling you to trust Him beyond familiarity. Familiarity feels safe, but it often hides stagnation. God's safety feels unfamiliar at first because it requires surrender. God is also teaching you that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay through every season. Permanence is not the measure of value. Some people serve a purpose for a time, and when that purpose is fulfilled, clinging becomes disobedience. Gratitude does not require attachment. This warning is sharpening your discernment for the future. God is training you now so that later, when the stakes are higher, your response will be quicker. Discernment is developed through obedience in uncomfortable moments. Every time you listen, your hearing becomes clearer. Do not underestimate how much God values your focus. Focus is currency in the spiritual realm. Whatever divides focus weakens effectiveness. God is calling you into a season of singular vision, where distractions lose their power and clarity becomes your companion. There are doors ahead that require boldness without hesitation. Hesitation often comes from unresolved ties. God is cutting those ties now, so you can step forward without looking back. Forward movement requires clean breaks. You may be tempted to wait for the right moment, but the right moment is when God speaks. Delaying obedience to protect emotions is still delay. God honors immediate obedience because it reflects trust, not impulse. God is not rushing you, He is positioning you. Positioning often feels like loss before it feels like gain. But nothing you release in obedience is ever wasted. God repurposes obedience into protection, peace, and provision. If you are wondering whether you will regret this decision, understand this. Regret comes from ignoring truth, not from obeying it. Even when obedience hurts, it heals cleanly. Disobedience may feel easier at first, but it leaves residue. God is also teaching you how to walk alone without feeling abandoned. Alone does not mean unsupported. Alone means undistracted. God often removes secondary voices so His voice becomes unmistakable. There will come a day when you look back and realize this warning saved you years of confusion. What feels heavy now will feel merciful later. Clarity often comes after courage. You are not behind. You are right on time. This warning is not a setback. It is an alignment check. God adjusts those He intends to accelerate. Stay honest with God. Do not hide your emotions from Him. God can handle your questions, your tears, your resistance, but let Him lead your decisions. Surrender is not silence. It is trust expressed through action. God is calling you higher, and higher places require lighter loads. Anything unnecessary must be released. This is not loss, this is refinement. You are being shaped into someone who listens quickly, moves decisively, and trusts deeply. This is the posture of the chosen. God sees your willingness. God honors your obedience. God secures your future. And as you continue to walk forward with humility and courage, you will discover that every warning was an act of love, every separation a step toward freedom, and every obedient decision a doorway into deeper peace, clearer purpose, and a stronger awareness of God's guidance unfolding step by step as you remain attentive to His voice and anchored in His direction.